Attention bowlers, we're going to get started. Welcome back to Leda Lanes in Nashua, New Hampshire. This is Nick Leach at Steve Kelly. The match format is 5 strings with 14 points on offer, 2 points per string, 4 for total pinfall. If there's a tie, the points are evenly split. Here's Nick Leach with the opening pitch. To the right of the head pin, drop 6, 1, 2, 4, 10. I'm Steve Kelly on the call for the Atlantic Candlepin Singles Tour, brought to you by 3 Ball Spare Conglomerate. Good as always to have you along with us. This match was played on April 7th, 2025. Happy Monday. Nick Leach punches the center. No spare, leaves the 2 and the 4. And it will be an 8 box for the opener for Nick Leach, our way bowler, and newcomer to the ACST here in the late season. Subbing in for Dave Hodge-Mallahan, and Nick Leach intends to actually bowl all 18 matches, or at least attempt to. His schedule is about to be very busy, and this is his inaugural match in the 2024-2025 Atlantic Candlepin Singles Tour season. And Leach on the 1-2 pocket, little full, drop 7, 3, 6, 10. Folks, this broadcast should have subtitles and live captioning enabled. If you enjoy this feature, please feel free to enable it in the controls below. And that's Nick Leach with a quick spare. Hockey pucks across the sidewall to take the 3-6-10. Nick Leach is at 18 and a bonus after 2. Throughout the match, I'll describe the play-by-play action and provide up-to-the-minute scoring to the best of my ability. Keep an eye on the unofficial scoreboard on your screen. It's here for the benefit of the broadcast, while the bowlers maintain the official book records separately. Scores are subject to review or correction. And that's Nick Leach to the right of the head pin. Leaves the 1-2-4-7 4 horsemen. You may also notice that you also see myself, Steve Kelly, in the background as I was running the stream and bowling. And you'll notice when Steve Kelly is bowling, Steve Kelly's scores will not be updated live. They will be updated every 5 boxes because I was running back to the computer to input the scores. That's Nick Leach with an 8 box, leaves the 2-7. And obviously, since you're hearing my voice, you'll understand that I am recording this after the fact. So just to set all expectations, I'm sure you figured it out, but just always like to highlight that just in case. I'll add chapters to the YouTube description so you can choose to jump to certain points in the games if that is your preference, or if you just want to watch one bowler just bowl all 5 games without interruption, you can certainly do that. If you like this content, I encourage you to subscribe to this channel, 3 Ball Spare, for more and exciting matches. If you have any questions or suggestions, please let me know in the comments. That's Nick Leach with a working box. Second ball takes all but the 9. And Nick Leach will take a 10. So yes, again, it's away bowler Nick Leach and home bowler Steve Kelly will bowl 5 strings of Candlepin bowling in which the points will be awarded to the victor of each string, as well as additional points awarded to the bowler with the most grand total pinfall out of a possible 14 points on offer today. If you've never seen Candlepin bowling, I'd like to extend a warm welcome to you and hope you enjoy what you're watching. If you are a returning viewer, welcome back. Your continued viewership is greatly appreciated. That's a 9 drop on the nose for Nick Leach. It's the 3 pin. This will be for the 5th box before he sits and Steve Kelly goes up to bowl. And Nick Leach will punch the 3 pin right in the face for a spare, his second mark of the game. And he's currently sitting at 52 in a bonus after 5. And that's the story for Nick Leach, 5 boxes into this 5-game series. Getting ready to set up for Steve Kelly now, the home bowler, who will be bowling on lane 30 to start out, as Nick Leach did. We elected to start on the right lane and then alternate to the opposite lane every 5 boxes. Steve Kelly has a record of 97 and 85 as of the time of this broadcast. Season average of 114.3. And Steve Kelly's opening ball is on the head pin. It's an 8 drop and a split, the 4-10. 3 pieces of wood between the 4 and the 10. One recommended shot might be to cap the left side of that double buffered wood closer to the 10. That way you can get the ball to kind of pinball left towards the 4, and hopefully the wood will kick off the sidewall to the 10. Steve Kelly went slightly to the right of that target and only took the 10 as a result. 9 or 10 box on the 4-pin. Piece of wood to the right of the 4-pin. Steve Kelly will cap the wood and it will push backwards to the 4-pin. That's a 10 box. That's 10 after 1 for Kelly. Steve Kelly, when he's home, has an average of 111.2 and away average of 117.4. Nick Leach's home house is also Leda, but this is a match in which Nick Leach has been positioned as the away bowler and Steve Kelly's the home bowler. And Kelly right on the nose on the head pin again. Split 7. 7, 10, 6. Piece of wood diagonal on the 6, 10. Slightly diagonal, a little flat. And Steve Kelly beans it, and a piece of wood rolls with wheels, and the 7 goes. Took a while, but it did go. The idea was to hit that wood as hard as you possibly could, and hopefully either the ball shoots left or a piece of wood would roll over, and the latter happened. Steve Kelly recently faced Peter Crawford Jr. at Leda Lanes. With a 5-game series of 572, it took 4 points. And Kelly drops 7. It's a miss on the head pin. 1, 3, 10. 1, 3, 7. First non-head pin shot of the game. 1, 3 pocket is the target. And Steve Kelly's just off on the Brooklyn side, sails through the void. Wasn't a crossover shot, more of a straight ball, but still the Brooklyn because Steve Kelly is a righty. And he'll punch the 3, that's an 8 box, leaving the 1 and the 7. After 3, Steve Kelly is at 35. The fill on the spare was 7. 2 more boxes before we say hello to Nick Leach again. Steve Kelly is 2 for 3 on the head pin with 2 splits. And Kelly straight on the head pin again, 7, 10, 4, 5. Wood settling. It looks like both of them are going to be in front of the 4 and the 7. The frontmost wood is slightly angled. Probably the best idea right there to bean that, and same idea as the second box spare shot. Just hope you get a splash or a kickback to the right. Kelly fires a little bit too much to the right, beans the 5-pin. Wanted to hit that wood on the right side, or possibly the red line, but things just didn't work out. 7, 10, 4 for Kelly, and he'll hit the wood hard on the left cap, take the 4, 7, and a piece of wood will come helicoptering forward. It'll be a 9 box, leaving the 10 pin. Steve Kelly's just going to clear that piece of wood because it's out of range of the pin setter sweeper. There it goes. 9 box in the 4th for Steve Kelly puts him at 44 after 4. Compare that to Nick Leach's 42 after 4. It's a difference of 2. Steve Kelly is 3 for 4 in the head pin with 3 splits. Nick Leach is just 1 for 4 in the head pin with 0 splits as of right now. And Kelly on the head pin again with another split of 5, 7, 10, 4, 6, 2. Nick Leach's first ball average for his first 5 frames was 6.4 pins. And Steve Kelly will punch 2 pins out on the left side. Steve Kelly's first ball average has been 6.6. Steve Kelly will take a 9 in the 5th, and that will put him at 53 after 5. 4 for 5 in the head pin. All 4 of those head pin shots were splits. And that 3rd frame was also an honorary split, but the head pin was up, so it's not counted as a split officially. So 53 is what Steve Kelly got out of that. 52 is what Nick Leach has after 5. And now he'll split 7 on that spare, and now it's 59 after 5. 2, 4, 6 for Nick Leach. It's a split. He'll punch 1. The 2 and the 10 are left on the deck. And he'll take 1 more out. That's a 9 box for Nick Leach. 68 in 6 with that 7 fill on the spare in the 5th. So like I said, Nick Leach is coming in very fresh in this season here, so don't really have a whole lot of historical stats to go by for Nick Leach, especially for this season. And Nick Leach is on the nose there and leaves the left side check mark. That's a 2-4-5-7. Going to work on that. No wood. Connect with the 2-4 or 2-5 pocket to check the check mark. And a bouncy ball right on the target. Hit it hard, took everything out. That's a spare for Nick Leach, 78 in 7. He's 4 for 7 on the headpin with 1 split as of right now. And Leach will take a right side check mark now on the headpin. Previous box he had a left side. This box he has a right side check mark. 3, 5, 6, 10, and that goes as well. Nick Leach has a clinic of checking the check mark. That puts him at 94 and 8. 2 boxes to go. Nick Leach has thrown 4 marks for 8 boxes. Lowest box has been 8 so far. And Leach on the headpin again. Great fill of 8, 5-10. That puts him at 102 after 8 officially. Leach will punch the 5. Not much you can really do with that leave unless you hit it at an angle. The 10 is left. He'll be shooting for a 9 box in the 9th. And he'll miss it for a 9. That's 111 and 9 for Nick Leach. 6 for 10 on the headpin with only 2 splits. We are at Leda Lanes in Nashua, New Hampshire. On Miller Street. That's a 9 drop for Nick Leach, right on the headpin again. It looks like it's going to be a pretty easy layup of a spare on the 10 pin, especially when that wood clears out, which it just did. And Nick Leach is all over it for a spare in the 10th. That's 121 in the 10th, plus a ball. Nick Leach is 70% on the headpin this game and this match so far. Only 2 splits. It's a great place to be. Nick Leach is just off to the right of the headpin, and he'll fill with... Looks like it's going to be 5. The 9 pin moves off its spot and wiggles but doesn't fall. That's 126. Game 1 for Nick Leach. So Steve Kelly at a 53 half. Has quite a ways to go. It's a lead of... or it's an advantage of 73 for Nick Leach for these next 5 boxes that Steve Kelly has to overcome to tie or win the first game. You're watching the Atlantic Candlepin Singles Tour by 3-Ball Spare Conglomerate. I'm Steve Kelly on the call recording after the fact. Steve Kelly versus Nick Leach at Leda Lanes. Steve Kelly will drop 7, missing the headpin, but taking 7 out. 1-3-6. No wood. Just a complete skill shot. And he's all over it for the spare in the 6th. 63 in 6 for Steve Kelly. Steve Kelly's 4 for 6 on the headpin so far with 4 splits. Just to catch you up. First ball average up to this point has been 6.6 roughly. And Kelly on the nose. Another split. Another headpin shot, another split. Just a full drill. That's a 6 fill for a 69 and 6. 4, 6, 2, 7. 2, 4, 7, 6, excuse me. And Kelly almost goes for the spare and nearly gets it. The 2 pin flew behind the 6 to thwart that attempt. It was right on target. It's just a difficult leave to convert just due to the angles. And that'll be a 9 in the 7th for Steve Kelly for 78. Compare that to Nick Leach's 84 at the same point in the game. Had a lovely conversation with another Steve Kelly in the audience and someone who was here to bowl. He was talking with me and he was like, "Are you Steve Kelly?" And I was like, "I am Steve Kelly." He goes, "I'm Steve Kelly." And we had a very Steve Kelly moment. That was during Nick Leach's first 5 boxes of this game. It was a very wondrous moment. Steve Kelly on the 5-7, another split. 5-7 leave with a piece of wood across the 5, and he'll take the right cap of the wood in front of the 5 and will spare it up. Steve Kelly had 88 in the bonus in the 8th. To catch up to Nick Leach's 126, he's basically going to have to at least mark at least one more time or just go lights out. Kelly filling a spare, and he's to the right of the headpin, mixes 7, 1, 3, 10. Missed the headpin, but it was still a decent splash of pins. So 1, 3, 10 for Steve Kelly for a spare here in the 9th. 6 for 9 on the headpin. And it'll, oh wow, he's on the headpin target, but it just punches straight back. It's now the 3 and the 10 for Steve Kelly for a 10 box, 8 box guarantee. And he'll hit the 3 and it actually kind of wiggles its way around the 10. The 10 stays. So that's a 9 box for Steve Kelly, and that's 104 and 9 now. Six for 9 on the headpin so far. 6 splits, 6 headpin shots, 6 splits for Steve Kelly. Nick Leach had 7 headpin shots and 2 splits. Kelly misses the headpin to the left there. 5 drop, 1, 3, 6, 10, 9. And Kelly misses the headpin, and the headpin's the only thing left standing. So the first game will go to Nick Leach. Steve Kelly looking at a potential 113 or a 114. Missing the headpin, that's going to be 113 with a 9 box. So the first game is going to be Nick Leach's. Nick Leach, first game, he'll take 2 points in his first season game. 126 to Steve Kelly's 113. Nick Leach, 70% on the headpin. Steve Kelly, 60% of the headpin. Steve Kelly 6 splits to Nick Leach's 2. Steve Kelly 3 spares. Nick Leach 5 spares. In terms of mark fills, Nick Leach totaled 32 in bonus pins, averaging 6.4 per mark. Steve Kelly totaled 20, averaging 6.7 per mark. And those scores will be appearing on your screen now as Steve Kelly of the past went back to enter them in.
Yep, I think so.
And you may notice that the section that normally highlights headpins and splits is blanked out in this broadcast, and that was just because during the time of the live broadcast, I wasn't able to chronicle my own headpin shots and splits, so I figured it would just be distracting to see it only appear on one side and appear lopsided, so I figured I'd just blank it out, and I'll just give you the verbal updates. Top of the second, Nick Leach starting out to the right of the headpin. Bit of a shaky first ball. He's got a pile of pins in the center. He drops 4. And Nick Leach right on it, but leaves the 4. No spare. For the 10 box, Nick Leach fires, and he's all over it for a 10. 10 after 1 for Nick Leach. Nick Leach bowls in the Friday Night Pro League for Central Park Lanes, one of their many teams. He throws a very, very fast ball, but it's also quite precise. So you watch that. Like that was he was right on the nose, and pins are still mixing. Sometimes, and I know in particular at Central Park Lanes, you can throw a very hard ball, and that'll be very advantageous to you. At Leda, it's kind of a little more up in the air as to whether a hard ball will or will not work. So he drops 8. Oh, and he misses the target of the 4-10, or the 4-7, excuse me. So it was a spare opportunity on the table for Nick Leach, but he just missed it. He'll miss the second and get the third. That's a 4-7-10 box for Nick Leach, 20 after 2. 1 headpin shot this game so far in 1 split. Nick Leach in the first game, he averaged 6.8 pins on his first ball. Steve Kelly averaged 6.6. And Nick Leach on the 1-3 pocket, a fast shot once again. Leaves the 4 and the 10. Second split of the game. Second headpin shot of the game. And Nick Leach, wild misfire to the right. Bounced the ball and it just was nowhere near its target. Just went to the right gutter. And Nick Leach, wow, what a great shot though. He played the 10 pin and kicked the wood over to the 4. So he missed the second. He does another miss the second, get the third situation. That's 30 after 3 for Nick Leach. 3 10 boxes in a row, triple X. On my scoreboard, the X will represent 10. I know in 10 pin that can often mean strike, but in candle pin it will mean 10 today. Nick Leach will connect with like somewhere around the vicinity of the 2-4 pocket and spin a piece of wood to turn it into a 6-drop, 1-3, 6-10. And Leach misses the object pin. The object pin is the only pin left standing. Just the head pin. Leach for the 10. He'll punch that 10 in the face for his 4th 10 box in a row, 40 after 4. 2 for 4 on the head pin with 2 splits. 4, 8, 8, 6 for his first ball, those first 4 boxes. Opening pitch is off to the right. 1-4-7 is what Nick Leach is shooting at. Three pieces of wood on the deck. 2 cradling the 4, 1 behind the 1 to the right. And he'll take the 1 and take the 4, but the wood cradled around the 4 kind of thwarted it from pushing back to the 7 somehow. For a 10 box, Nick Leach will foul that off for a 9 as it was in the gutter. So that's 49 after 5, nearly a perfect game of 10s after 5 boxes, but that fouled 9 made it 49 after 5. That's the story for Nick Leach. 1.5 game total, 175 here on the ACST. I'm Steve Kelly on the call. Great to have you along. Nick Leach's first ball average for the first 5 frames was 6.6. Start of the second frame for Steve Kelly. On the head pin, splitting 5, 7, 8, 10, 3, 6. And on the front horizontal wood, Steve Kelly's a little full on the shot. The 3 and the 6 are untouched. For the 10 box, the 2 go down. That's a 10 box for Steve Kelly in the first. This is round 11 in the ACST versus Nick Leach. In the latter evening hours of the season, the twilight of the 2024-2025 season, Steve Kelly is off to the right at the head pin. Steve Kelly is in Class A North Division 4. The ACST is comprised with 4 divisions per class for classes A through D, with 4 people in each division. And there is a North and a South Conference. This is the North Conference. Steve Kelly still has a working box here. It'll be for a 10 box on the 5 and the 9. And the 5 and the 9 go. That's a 10 box for Steve Kelly. 20 after 2. Start of the third frame. Both bowlers are at 20 after 2. And on the 1-3 pocket, 8 drop, 9 drop. 2-pin is left on the deck. The 4-pin was tripped by a piece of wood late. Single pin spare opportunity for Steve Kelly set up on the deck of lane 30 at Leda Lanes in Nashua, New Hampshire. And he's all over it for a spare in the third. That's 30 and a bonus for Steve Kelly. The streak of 10 boxes has been broken. Every bowler bowled a 10 box up to the third frame except for Steve Kelly, who threw a spare just now. And Kelly's on the pocket again and drops 8, a quick 8. The 4 and the 7 with a piece of wood perpendicular to the 4. That's an 8 fill for 38 after 3. 2 for 3 on the headpin with 1 split so far. And Steve Kelly has another spare. 2 spares in a row now. 48 and a bonus in the fourth. Correction, 3 for 4 on the headpin with 1 split. This is the 5th frame. Steve Kelly filling a spare from the 4th frame. On a double spare. And Kelly is on the 1-2 pocket. And it is the 7-10-4. A fill of 7 and another split. Piece of wood diagonal in the 4. Hit it the right way, you could get a ball to bounce to take the 10. Kelly plays it, and the ball is ricocheted to the right, goes up, then down, comes back to the left, bounces off the sidewall, and goes into the pit. 10-pin is untouched, despite the effort. Be a 9 or 10 box for Steve Kelly in the 5th for a potential 65 half, but it will be a 64 with that 9 box. So Steve Kelly after 5 is at 64, went 4 for 5 on the headpin with 2 splits, and has 2 spares. Steve Kelly's first ball average was 6.4 for the first half. Compare that to 6.6 for Nick Leach. Those scores are showing up on your screen now. 49 for Nick Leach, 64 for Steve Kelly. Steve Kelly has the total by 2 and the game by 15 right now. That's Nick Leach, who missed the headpin but dropped 6. That's the 1-7-10-9. Leach plays the wood hard, but takes no pins. Well, except for the 9-pin. The 9-pin fell very late. Now he's got the 1-7-10, the jack, the high-low jack. Leach misses the jack for a 7 box in the 6th for 56. Again, this is normally the point. Again, this is normally the point where I would speak about Nick Leach's statistics, but this is literally his first match this season, and he's got a lot of catching up to do to fill in as a substitute bowler. So, TBD on all of that. That's a Caleri shot on the left side for Nick Leach, 1-2-4-7-9. And Nick Leach misses the object pin on the Caleri and leaves the object pin. And he'll take a 9 box. That's 65 and 7 for Mr. Leach. Nick Leach on lane 29. You'll see lanes 33 and 34 in view at Leda Lanes in the rear wide shot. That's a 7 drop and a split for Nick Leach. Lanes 33 and 34 are infamous for being the WNDS Winds of New England TV50 Candlepin Stars and Strikes lanes from the late 90s and early 2000s, filmed here at Leda Lanes. And that's a great, great spare by Nick Leach, who converted the 4-7-10, playing the wood for a spare. Nick Leach is at 75 and a ball in the 8th. He's had some trouble finding the headpin so far. He's only 3 for 8, and all 3 of those headpin shots have been splits. And Leach buries the pocket there. 8 fill, 83 and 8, but it's another split, the 2 and the 6. Both bowlers with a fair amount of splits up to this point. Leach hits the object pin, but hits it a little bit too full and too hard. The 6 pin is left unharmed, unscathed on the deck. For the 10 box, Nick Leach will take a 9 for 92 and 9. 4 for 9 on the head pin with 4 splits. Nick Leach with 4 10 boxes and 1 spare. Worst box has been 7. And his first ball average cumulatively up to this point after 20 boxes has been 6.5. And in the second game, he averaged 6.2. And Nick Leach almost converts that awkward half-Worcester-ish shot for a spare, but leaves the 9. So he'll go markless for this box, and that will be another 9 box. Nick Leach finishes game 2 with 101 for a 2-game total of 227, with 11 head pin shots for 20 and 6 splits. Steve Kelly down in the total by 50, 5 boxes behind, and down in the game by 37, 5 boxes behind. In the first half, Steve's first ball average has been 6.4. Compare that to Nick Leach, who is at 6.6. So both bowlers trending relatively evenly in terms of first ball pins down. Kelly's starting this off to the right. Ball was in the back corner on the 6-10 pocket, but a piece of wood helicoptered across to take out a few more. It's a 6 drop, center check mark, 1, 2, 3, 4. And a 1, and a 2, and a 3, and a 4. The Lawrence Welk. Kelly on the 1, 2, 3, 4 takes the 2 and the 4, leaves the 1 and the 3. For the 10 box, Kelly will take the 1 on the Brooklyn to push the 3. That will be a 10 in the 6th for 64 and 6. Compare that to Nick Leach's 56 and 6. Excuse me, 74 and 6. 74 to 56, Kelly and Leach, respectively. Frame 7, first ball. On the 1-3 pocket, Steve Kelly splits 7. A narrow split, but it's the 2-7-8. Piece of wood in between the 2 and the 8. It's complicated to take both the sleeper and the 7. And as you can tell there, Steve Kelly got the sleeper and got the 2, obviously. Playing the 2 starts that whole process, but the 7 untouched because the sidewall didn't really help with the 2 pins bounce. Steve Kelly misses the 7. That's a 9 box for 83 and 7 for Steve Kelly. Compare that to Nick Leach's 65 in 7. Frame 8, first ball. Steve Kelly to the right, and that's a left side Kaleri, 1, 2, 4, 7, 9. The Kaleri is named after Bob Kaleri, one of the many contestants on Candlepin Stars and Strikes. Got this shot a lot and talked about it a lot. And Steve Kelly versus the Kaleri takes all but the 7. Takes 4 of the 5 pins. For the 10 box, and Steve Kelly will take the 7 pin for a 10 box. At the end of the 8th frame, it's 93 for Steve Kelly and 83 for Nick Leach. Steve Kelly has 1 additional spare compared to Nick Leach from the first half. First 5 boxes, he had 64, and Nick Leach had 49. Steve Kelly wasn't on the head pin, but drops 7. Drops 8, actually. 1 and the 2. for the spare shot for the 9th frame. Kelly fires, and that's a spare. Third spare of the game for Steve Kelly. That's 103 in the 9th frame, plus a ball. Nick Leach is at 92 and 9. Tenth frame, Steve Kelly's first ball on the 1-3 pocket, and what an ugly leave that is. It's a good fill of 7 for 110 and 9, but this is the 5-7-10. Some call this the Matt Susi special, or the Woolworth split, or the harder high-low jack. The 5-pin being in the center closer to the 7 and 10 makes it a really difficult shot, because you have even less Z-axis leeway to take the split. Steve Kelly takes the 5 and leaves the 7 and the 10, like you observe. It's a hard shot just to take one additional pin off that split, let alone 2. And Steve Kelly just picks a stick, picks the left side 7-pin for our 9 box. That will be a 119 10th frame for Steve Kelly and a 119 10th game for a 2-game total of 232 for Steve Kelly and 227 for Nick Leach. Steve Kelly will take the second game by 18 and has reclaimed the total by 5. Both bowlers in a dead heat right now in terms of 1 game apiece, but Steve Kelly has the total by 5. The grand total pinfall is worth 4 points by the end of the match, so bear that in mind as you watch the total get passed around, especially in close matches such as this. Nick Leach had a first ball average of 6.5 cumulatively up to this point. Steve Kelly 6.6. The headpin percentages have been 55% for Nick Leach and 60 for Steve Kelly. Steve Kelly has 10 splits to Nick Leach's 6. Fill totals have been relatively even. Nick Leach at 40, Steve Kelly at 42. Here's Nick Leach opening ball of game 3. Ugly split of 5, 7, 8, 10, 4, 3. Gotta bean the 3 in some way, and he does, and it was a great shot on paper. Played it in a way I wouldn't change a thing, but he leaves the 4. And he misses that 4, and will open up with a 9 box. Nick Leach and Steve Kelly have yet to throw any strikes so far this match. They finished the second game with 6 spares apiece. And Nick Leach misses the head pin, and it's a Coleary on the left side. 1, 2, 4, 7, 9. Leach plays the 1-2 pocket, leaves the 7 and the 9. Leach plays the wood to the right of the 9, but doesn't take any pins, so he'll take an 8 box for 17 after 2. Nick Leach has averaged 5 pins on the first ball so far, two boxes in, 5 and 5. And Leach on the 1-3 pocket drops 9, leaving the 4 pin. It was a quick 9. It'll be a single pin spare opportunity in the 3rd. And Leach, just misses it by inches. Just slightly off to the right. Those hurt because those seem so easy, but they're just kind of psychologically difficult. Leach will get it on the retry for the 3rd. What could have been, but it's only a 10 box. 27 after 3 for Nick Leach. 2 for 3 on the head pin with 1 split. 2 boxes to go before he sits. Mr. Leach on the head pin, another ball that could have been yet another strike. And you'll see myself and Matt Susi conversing in the background, and Matt Susi was joking. He says, "Nice double." And then he also yelled, "Nice fill," because he was joking about him missing the single pin. But Nick doesn't do it there. He gets the spare there for 37 and a bonus in the 4th. It's funny. Matt was discussing how he could have gotten 2 spares, and I'm standing there going, he really could have gotten 2 strikes, honestly, because his first ball was just so good in both frames. 37 and a bonus for Nick Leach, and it'll be 7 on the fill, missing the headpin again, 1, 3, 10. He's gone 3 for 5 on the headpin. So actually he hasn't missed the headpin all that much, but it's a 7 fill for 44 after 4 for Nick Leach. 55997 has been his first ball for this half, which is an average of 7, so it's not bad. 8, 9, or 10 for Nick Leach, and he'll take an 8 in the 5th for 52 after 5. Nick Leach has gone 3 for 5 on the headpin this half with 1 split. At least 1 missed opportunity for a spare and 2 robberies when it comes to a double strike for Nick Leach, but 52 after 5 is currently where he's at. He has 7 spares. Top of the third, Steve Kelly coming in for the second quarter of the third game here to bowl his first 5 boxes on lane 30 at Leda Lanes in Nashua, New Hampshire on the Atlantic Candlepin Singles Tour. This Class A North, round 11. Nick Leach subbing in for Dave Hodge Malahan in Nashua, New Hampshire as the away bowler. Steve Kelly is on the headpin on the 1-2 pocket, 3-7-9 split, drop a 7. Steve Kelly has been averaging 6.6 on the first ball up to this point. Kelly on the 9-pin in the back, missing the 3-pin entirely. Now it's the 3 and the 7. For the opener of the first frame, he'll take the 3 and leave the 7. That's a 9 after 1 for Steve Kelly. And Kelly a little bit too much down the center. That's a 4-pin spread eagle. The 1, the 5, the 8, and the 9 are punched out. The left and the right wings, the traditional academic spread eagle. Very difficult spare leave. It's possible, just hard. Steve Kelly tried to play the 3-6 pocket, but just didn't tap the 3 enough. Took the 6 and the 10. So now the 2, 3, 4, 7 on the deck for a 6 box or greater. And it will be a 9 box for Steve Kelly. Almost looked like it was going to be a 10. Piece of wood thought about rolling forward, but didn't have enough juice. So that's 18 after 2 for Kelly. 2 9s in a row. This will be the third frame. Opening ball. Just slightly off to the right of the headpin. He'll drop 6. 4 horsemen left side. Steve Kelly's first ball average has been 5.6 up to this point. 1, 2, 4, 7. Need to run down the horseman. And Kelly crosses over a little bit too much. It's now the 1, 7, 8, 9, or 10 box. It'll connect with the 1, and the 1 will fly around, but the 7 remains. So that's 3 9s in a row for Steve Kelly. That's 27 after 3. 2 for 3 on the headpin with 2 splits this game so far. Nick Leach went 3 for 5 on the headpin with 1 split. Kelly on the 1-3 pocket, and it's a 7-10 split with a piece of wood rolling towards the 7, and it's going to lightly rest against the 7 diagonally. Now the idea for this is to play the ball against that wood, and hopefully you can get a ricochet of some kind to take the 10. Won't be easy, but it's your best chance. So Kelly plays the 7, but is a little bit too full on the cap of the wood, and it just goes straight back to take the 7, but the 10 is untouched. This will be to complete the 4th frame for Kelly. He's 3 for 4 on the headpin with 3 splits. Every headpin shot a split so far, and he'll just miss the 10 pin to the left. That's his 4th 9-box in a row. That's 36 after 4. Seven, 4, 6, 8 so far for the first ball. Kelly's on the 1-3 pocket there and drops 9, the 4 and the 7. Excuse me, just the 4, not the 7. Where'd the 7 pin come from in that thought? Just the 4 pin. It was the 4 and the 8, and then the 8 fell late. Kelly on a single, the 4 pin, and there it goes. That's a spare for Steve Kelly. 4 9s in a spare. That's 46 in a bonus after 5 for Steve Kelly. 4 for 5 in the head pin with 3 splits. Now, I was remarking to Nick Leach, I was like, this train of 9s has to end at some point. And I was remarking just the splits. The splits were killing me on a lot of those shots. And here's your score update. So the total is within 1. Nick Leach currently has by 1 minus the fill from Steve Kelly. And the game is +6 for Nick Leach, 52 to Steve's 46. Again, pending the fill on a spare. Nick Leach on lane 29 to the left of the head pin drops 7, 1, 3, 10. That hard ball caused the explosion of pins, despite it not touching the head pin. 70% of the deck wiped out on ball 1. And Nick Leach just off to the left, similar to where the first ball went. Consistent, but not always the consistency you necessarily want. And Nick Leach will punch the head pin there, finds it there, but the 3 and the 10 aren't impressed. That's an 8-box for Nick Leach and 60 in 6. Nick Leach's first ball average has been 7. So head pin or not, he's taking at least 70% of the deck out each time. On the first ball, this game at least. And Nick Leach, felt like an even faster ball on the pocket there. 5, 8, 10. And this will be a doozy of a shot because that wood is questionable in terms of the angles. Going to be a bit of an entropy kind of shot. 5, 8, 10. And see, just like that, and the ball just skates by the 5. So the 8 and the 10 went, and the ball walked by the 5 on the rebound, but didn't take it. That's a 9-box for Leach, 69 in 7. 4 for 7 on the head pin with 2 splits. Nick Leach has 1 mark. 7 boxes in, he's still averaging 7 on the drop for the first ball. Leach on the 1-3 pocket drops 7. That's the 2, 4, 7. With a lot of wood around it, this looks like a more surefire spare opportunity with less nuance. There's some wood in between the 2 and the 4, but it shouldn't matter, especially given Nick Leach's ball. And he throws it, real smooth ball, and goodbye. 2, 4, 7 goes. Connected with the 2 and the 4, and then the ball bounced off the sidewall to roll into the 7. That is 79 and a bonus for Nick Leach in the 8th. And Nick Leach on the pocket, an explosion of a first ball and an 8 drop. It's a 7-10 split. 7 fill, 104 and 9. 6 for 9 on the head pin with 3 splits. Nick Leach, what an incredible 7-10 spare. Excuse me, 97 and 9. I got ahead by a box. Just for those wondering at home, yeah, where are you getting these numbers from? Unfortunately, well, it's not really unfortunately. I do know the outcome of this match, and I do know the final scores, and I'm just trying to not give you the spoiler version and just try and do some math in real time looking at my final scoreboard off screen. But look at that 7 fill for Nick Leach, 7, 9, 10. It's a split, lumberyard of wood down there. Now he's at 104 and 9. And that's another headpin shot. He went 7 for 10 on the headpin with 3 splits this game. That's the 7, 9, 10 with lots of wood. Just play the wood in some way. And yikes. It just goes down the center. The 7 pin is not involved in the skirmish. And Nick Leach will take the 7 for a 10 box. His game is 114 in the third for a 3-game total of 341 for Nick Leach. That 7-10 split spare was definitely the highlight for Nick Leach this game. He has 3 spares. 7-8-7 was the fill. He's averaged 6.8 on the first ball. Overall, after 30 boxes in this game, he averaged 7.1 on the first ball. Steve Kelly so far has averaged 6.8 on the first ball for the first 5 boxes. So Steve Kelly has to get to 114 or greater to take points. 1 point to tie, 2 to win. Kelly is filling a spare on the 1-3 pocket. Finds the head pin, and it's the 5-7. With a piece of wood to the right of the 5, and you see the angle of that wood, you just have to push it left. The difficulty is just getting your ball to tail in to start that process. I would not play the wood in front of the 5, the frontmost wood between the 5 and the 7, that's all. Kelly on the 5-7, and it connects. The skate of the wood to the right of the 5 pushes over the 5 and the 7. That's a double spare for Steve Kelly, and that is 64 to bonus after 6. He was 54 after 5. He's 5 for 6 on the head pin with 4 splits. And Kelly filling the 6th frame. He'll be 70-6 with that 6 fill. Another head pin shot, another split. 4-6-2-10. And Kelly takes 3 of the 4. It was almost a pretty spare, but the 4 pin somehow was not involved. Played the object pin, but sometimes you can hit your object and still not necessarily get the mark. Kelly on the 4, takes the 4. That's a 10 box. That's 80-7 for Steve Kelly. Compare that to Nick Leach's 69-7. Steve Kelly is 6 for 7 on the head pin this game with 5 splits. We count a split only if the head pin is down. And Steve Kelly will drop 7... Nope, sorry. He'll drop 9. The 5 and the 10 were there, and then the 5 fell late. It's a 9 drop in the 8th. Single pin spare on the 10. Steve Kelly throws it, and it's right on it. Punches it right in the face. That's 90 and a bonus in the 8th for Steve Kelly. Averaging 7.125 on the first ball for pins down. 8 boxes into this game. And Kelly's to the right of the head pin, but gets a decent fill of 7 out of it. That's 97 in 8. It's the 1-2-7 for Steve Kelly. See if he can make this. Plays the 1-2, and wow. Well, it was the right angle in the right pocket, but the 7 pin just didn't get touched. Just one of the pieces of wood just jutted into the left channel a little bit early. And Steve Kelly will take a 10 box out of that, connecting with the wood on the cap, bouncing off the sidewall and taking the 7 for a 10 box. 1 box to go for Steve Kelly at the end of the third here. That's 107 and 9. So far, averaging 7.1 on the first ball. On lane 29, Kelly's off to the right. It's the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 10. Missed the headpin to the right. So it's the center diamond, and then the 4 and the 10, and Steve Kelly takes a few more out. That's the 5, the 3, and the 10. So it won't be a mark. Currently tied with Nick Leach at 114 if this is a 7 box. And for the win, and it will be the for the win, plus 3. That'll be 117 in 10 for Steve Kelly, up by 3 to Nick Leach's 114. He'll take the third game. And a 3-game total of 349 to 341. This is a very tight match. Steve Kelly just narrowly taking the third game. So Steve Kelly has two games to Nick Leach's 1, and the total, Steve Kelly has the total by 8. Still anyone's match, and it's competitive. That's what we like to see in the ACST. Steve Kelly on the first ball averaged 6.7, and Nick Leach has averaged 6.8. And here come the scores for your visual pleasure. That's 349 for Steve Kelly, 341 for Mr. Nick Leach. And in the fills in particular, you'll notice that it's very close between Nick Leach and Steve Kelly. Nick Leach has 62 in bonus fills, Steve Kelly 63, both effectively averaging 7 on each fill. We're off to the fourth game here, and Nick Leach opening up with a 9 drop, a quick one on the head pin. Leaves the 7 pin, single pin spare opportunity for Nick Leach. He had trouble with the single pin spare with the 4 pin being the operative pin, but not this time. He's right on the 7, all over it, takes a spare. 10 after 1 and a bonus for Nick Leach. Nick Leach has, at the end of the 5th game, 9 spares, along with Steve Kelly. Neither bowler finding a strike just yet. Leach Lanes isn't being very kind in the strike department today. Nick Leach missed the head pin, leaves the 1 and the 7. So Phil with 8 for 18 after 1, and he'll miss the head pin to the left. So no second spare. And Leach will miss it again. That'll be an 8 box for 26 after 2 for Mr. Leach. Steve Kelly's going down to correct the fill. The automatic score system was very weird about that. I figured I'd fix it down there first and then input it on the stream scoreboard. So 26 after 2 for Nick Leach. Nick Leach is still left of the head pin, and pins are still mixing. That's the 1, 6, 10. It's the 4 horsemen minus the 3. Here in the 3rd frame. Let's see where this goes. Leach. Oh, and he released, and you saw that instant look down on his release. Something wasn't quite right there. It's the 1 and the 10 now. And he'll miss again. That's another 8 box for Nick Leach for 34 after 3. With 2 boxes to go, Nick Leach is having trouble finding the head pin this half. Only 1 for 3 so far. First ball has been 5, then 6, then 7. And Leach connects with the pocket there, but only gets 6 pins out of it. 2, 4, 7, 8, 10 for Nick Leach. Here comes Nick Leach trying to spare it up, and he almost does it. Some debris coming very close to the 10 pin, but the 10 pin stays. So the 2, 4, 7, 8 were bulldozed down, but it's all about getting that pin on the opposite corner. Nick Leach just misses the 10 slightly to the right. That's a 9 box, and 43 after 4 for Nick Leach. 2 for 4 on the head pin with 1 split. First ball average for Nick Leach this game after 4 frames so far has been 6.75. And Nick Leach is on the 1-3 pocket. Buries it. The 4 pin is thinking about falling, but it looks like it's not going to. That will be a split of 7 for Nick Leach. 2, 4, 7. Or 2, 4, 10, excuse me. And Leach will be in the 4 and leave the 2 in the 10. And Nick Leach will take the 2 and leave the 10. That's a 9 box for Nick Leach. That's 52 after 5. He went 3 for 5 on the head pin with 2 splits. Nick Leach is in double-digit territory with spares, 10 to be exact, but no strikes. A lot of the stats are very even right now in terms of marks and overall, so you can tell this match is quite neck and neck, coming down to just a difference of a few pins in a lot of cases. It's been a lot of matches in the ACST recently, a lot of matches, particularly ones I've been calling, that really come down to the wire. And it's nice to see that. You don't really like to see a blowout or situations where someone is just so hopelessly far behind, but a lot of matches I've seen this season in particular have been really exciting in that regard. Steve Kelly opening pitch of the first frame of the 4th game. He's off to the left of the head pin. It's the 4 horseman right and the 7 pin. And Kelly runs down the right 4 horsemen. It looks good on paper, but the wood just didn't cooperate to take the 7. Kelly misses the 7. That'll be a 9-box opener in the 4th game for Steve Kelly. At the end of the 3rd game, Steve Kelly has gone 19 for 30 on the head pin with 15 splits. Nick Leach was 18 for 30 on the head pin with 10 splits. So Steve Kelly is +5 in the split department. And Kelly's on the 1-2 pocket there, blows up 6. That's a 3, 7, 9, and 10. And this will be an interesting one. Because you have to hit the 3 and take the 7, 9, 10. The 3 pin you got to play in some way. Steve Kelly plays the 3, and everything goes. The 7 pin was the one to worry about, but the ball went to the left and pushed a piece of wood in front of the 7 conveniently there. That's a spare for Steve Kelly. That's 19 and a bonus after 2. Steve Kelly's 1 for 2 on the head pin with 1 split so far. And there's a pocket shot again, a 7 fill. The 5, 6, 10. This shot is interesting, especially with wood along the 6 and the 10. You can either kick the 5 or try to cap the wood on the left to get a sidewall rebound. And Steve Kelly plays the 5 to the left, and the 5 doesn't do anything. And I can tell you, because I remember this shot, I was not aiming for the 5. I was going for the 6-10 on the left of the wood, and I just misfired entirely. But Steve Kelly will take a 10 box out of it. That will be 36 and 3 for Steve Kelly. Compare that to Nick Leach's 34 after 3, plus 2. Steve Kelly 5, 6, 7 on the first ball, averaging 6 so far for first ball pins down. Compare that to Nick Leach, who is averaging 8 on the first ball after 3 frames. And Steve Kelly on the 1-3 pocket drops 9, leaves the 7 pin. Single pin spare in the 4th. Piece of wood diagonal to the 7. Just hit the wood and you basically got it. And it's gone. That's a spare for Steve Kelly. That's 46 and a bonus in the 4th. He's 3 for 4 on the head pin with 2 splits. 2 spares, a 10 and a 9. And this will be filling a spare in the 5th frame for Steve Kelly to complete the 4th frame. That's a pocket shot again on the 1-2 pocket, and it's another 5, 6, 10 leave, but no wood this time. This is one of those leaves where you either try a really fancy trick shot on the 5, or you just pick the 5 and then pick the 6 and the 10 on each ball. Steve Kelly will sail through the void, unfortunately. I can tell you I was trying to play the 4. I wanted to get the 4 to kick to the right and maybe do something fancy, but starts with hitting it, and I didn't hit it. Steve Kelly will pick the 2 pins for the salvage mission of a 9-box, and that's 62 after 5 for Steve Kelly. 4 for 5 on the head pin with 3 splits. Nick Leach, 3 for 5 on the head pin with 2 splits. This game, Steve Kelly up by 10, 62 in 5 to Nick Leach's 52 in 5. After 5 frames this game, Steve Kelly has averaged 6.8 on the head pin. Nick Leach has averaged 7.2 on the head pin for the first ball. Sorry, not on the head pin, for the first ball. You know what I mean. 393, 3.5 game total for Nick Leach. 411, 3.5 game total for Steve Kelly. It's a difference of 18 in the total for Steve Kelly. And there's a strike, the first strike for Nick Leach. First blood. It was a fast one. Nick Leach is at 62 and a bonus in the 6th. Unbelievable that it's taken us more than 3.5 games to see the first strike in Class A, but here we are. It's not for lack of trying. The head pin stats are high. And Nick Leach will drop 6, missing the head pin to the left. 1, 3, 6, 9 on the first ball of the fill. Leach just misses to the right. He connects with the 3-6 pocket, leaves the 1 and the 9. That's an 8 fill on the strike. 70 in 6. And that will be an 8 box for Nick Leach, leaving the 1 and the 9 on the deck. That's 78 in 7. Nick Leach is 4 for 7 on the head pin with 2 splits. After 7 boxes, he's averaging 7.42 on the first ball. 74% of the deck wiped out. And Nick Leach will drop 7 there. 4, 5, 2. Nick Leach on the triangle, and that was a misfire. You could tell by the reaction. He connects with the 4, leaves the 2 and the 5. And it will be another 8 box, 86 and 8 for Nick Leach. And Nick's heavy on the 1-2 pocket. 8 pins go down. It's the 3 and the 9. Should be a simple spare layup opportunity. And the pitch, and there it goes. That's a spare for Nick Leach. 96 in 9, plus a ball. 6 for 9 on the head pin with 2 splits. Opening ball for Nick Leach, averaging 7.3 for Game 4 and 6.9 overall in the match cumulatively. He'll drop 6. 2, 7, 10, 6 for Nick Leach. 25 for 40 on the head pin with 13 splits today. And he'll take all but the 7. And the 7's just slightly missed. There'll be a 9 box for Nick Leach and a 111 4th game for a 4-game total of 452 for Nick Leach. Nick Leach currently plus 41 in the total, 5 boxes ahead, and plus 49 in the game, 5 boxes ahead of Steve Kelly. Nick Leach has 1 strike on the board and 11 spares. He's gone 63% on the head pin today. 25 head pin shots for 40, 13 splits. That's a lot of splits. He's totaled 84 in mark fills, averaging 7 per mark. And now Steve Kelly is looking to match to start the 6th frame. Steve Kelly's averaging 6.8 on the first ball so far this game. And we're off. And Kelly's on the head pin, but will split 6, and that's the 3, 5, 9, 10. Kelly is on the 5, but a little too much on the 5 and leaves the 3 and the 10. Steve Kelly's been perfect on the headpin up to this point, except for the first box. And he'll leave the 9 for a 9 box. In the 6th, he's at 71. 5 for 6 on the headpin with 4 splits. Steve Kelly's on the 1-2 pocket now. 5, 6, 7. Piece of wood between the 5 and the 7 and behind the 6. I'd play the wood on the 5 in some way. And Kelly plays the red line of the wood between the 5 and the 7. And that it wasn't really exactly where I was shooting. I probably would have rather played the cap on that wood on the right side, but I got what I got, and the 7 pin is left for a 10 box. And that is a 10 box for Steve Kelly. That's 81 and 7. With three boxes to go. And it's a 1-2 pocket shot, 7, 10, 4. There's no wood with this split, so it's going to be an interesting brawl to make this a spare. And second ball sails into the void in the center. Ball goes into the ocean, as some would say. Seven, 10, 4 leave for Steve Kelly for a 10 box. He'll take a 7. I mean an 8, excuse me. He'll punch the 7 and leave 2 on the deck, and that means it's an 8 box. 89 and 8 for Steve Kelly. A lot of splits this game, in particular for Steve Kelly. Perfect on the head pin since the second frame. Just not getting a lot of good leaves to show for it. 1-3 pocket shot. It's the 2 diamond. Or excuse me, the 2 triangle, 2, 4, 5. Kelly versus the 2 triangle. The 2 triangle goes. That's a spare for Steve Kelly. 3rd of the game. That's 99 and a bonus in the 9th. And I was clearing a piece of debris out of the gutter, and sometimes it's faster to just do the clear and then go back and do the score correction because it marked my next frame as a strike, and sometimes it's easier just to go back and delete it rather than go through the rigmarole of disabling ball detection. I know when we were bowling Worlds at Leda, we usually resorted to that because it was just faster. Didn't stop the flow of bowling as much. Kelly on the 1-3 pocket drops 7. It's the 2, 5, and 8. 7 fill on the spare, so that puts him at 106 and 9. He's ahead of Nick Leach's 102 and 9. Has to get to 111. And Kelly will take the 2, take the 5. But the 8 is untouched. So he's currently at 115. And that 10 box will make it 116. Steve Kelly went 9 for 10 on the head pin with 7 splits, excuse me. So Steve Kelly 116 will take the 4th game against Nick Leach's 111. 4-game total of 465 for Steve Kelly, 4-game total of 452 for Nick Leach. Steve Kelly has averaged 6.7 on the first ball. Nick Leach 6.9 on the first ball up to this point. 70% head pin completion percentage for Steve Kelly, 63% head pin completion percentage for Nick Leach. Steve Kelly has 22 splits. Nick Leach has 13. Both are equal. Both bowlers are equal in terms of the fill totals, 84 apiece, averaging 7.0 per mark for both bowlers. Steve Kelly has 12 marks. Nick Leach has 12 marks. The only difference is one of Nick Leach's marks is a strike versus Steve Kelly, who has all 12 being spares. And we're going to be rolling into the fifth game here on the ACST on the Atlantic Candlepin Singles Tour. This Class A Northern Conference action between away bowler Nick Leach and home bowler Steve Kelly. Nick Leach will punch the 2 and the 8 for what we call a half Worcester. And believe it or not, that might be the first half Worcester we've seen this match. Some matches you see a lot of them, and this match we really haven't seen that many punch-outs. Nick Leach working box. It ends up being a 7 to start out. Appreciate you watching this content. If you like what you're watching, I encourage you to subscribe to 3 Ball Spare. That's my YouTube channel with plenty of other matches and shorts and highlights and whatever it is. Maybe the occasional live feed of a tournament or two. It's all going to be available on 3 Ball Spare on YouTube. Nick Leach is on the 1-2 pocket, buries it there, but leaves the 6 and the 7. 6-7 split, 2 pieces of wood along the 7. You can attempt to play the 7 and just bean those 2 pieces of wood and hope you get a bounce, or you can try your luck on the 6 on the right side of it. Or maybe play the left side if you want to really hope the sidewall will kick the 7. And Leach, that ball goes right into the ocean. I think he was trying to play the 7, but the ball just wasn't going to the left enough. And Leach does it again, does it twice. That'll be an 8 box for Nick Leach. 15 after 2. Nick Leach in the fourth game averaged 7.3 on the first ball. Steve Kelly averaged 6.8 on the first ball in the fourth game. And Leach, he throws, and you saw him look down. Something just wasn't right with that release once again. He's off to the right. Takes 3 pins out. A right side candlepin corner, the 6, 9, 10. And Leach is on the pocket there in the remedial ball, but not much to show for it. Leaves the 5 and the 8. Be an open third frame. Be a 9 box, 24 after 3 for Nick Leach. Nick Leach is currently 1 for 3 on the headpin with 1 split. And there's Leach on the headpin again. It's the left side check mark. We watched him make this way earlier in the match. It's the 2, 4, 5, 7. Let's see if he gets this here in the fourth frame of the final game. And again, he throws, and you can kind of tell when his approach or release isn't quite right, because you can see from the front camera, he just kind of looks down and knows something quite isn't right there, and he'll take a fourth box of 9 for 33 and 3. 2 for 4 on the headpin with 1 split. First ball average so far for Nick Leach this game has been 4.75. A bit of a dip compared to what we normally see, where it's in the 6s or 7s. Leach, there's the headpin there, buries the pocket, but the 5-pin stands tall. The 8-pin falls eventually. And Leach on the 5-pin, there it goes, goodbye. And that's a spare, that's a way to sit. That's 43 and a bonus for Nick Leach, who's gone 3 for 5 on the headpin this half. And first ball average, that 5th frame really helped out a lot. That puts him at 5.6 on the first ball average. Starting the second quarter of the final game here, will be Steve Kelly coming down to the decks of lane 30 for the final time on lane 30 today. It's been a very, very evenly paced match up to this point. Steve Kelly took 3 games to Nick Leach's 2, and Steve Kelly had the total by 13 by the end of the 4th. But again, that lead is barely anything. It basically comes down to a mark and a fill. So it could sway in anyone's favor. We'll see what happens by the end of this game. Kelly right on the head pin, the 7-10-6. And luckily there's 2 pieces of wood in front of and to the left of the 6 pin, so you can probably hit the ball in the vicinity of the leftmost wood and probably get a spare out of it. Kelly is on that wood and right in between the 2 pieces of wood to get the spread, and that's a spare for Steve Kelly. That's 10 after 1 plus a ball. Steve Kelly on the mark. 1-3 pocket. Another one of these awkward spare leave splits. It's the 4-5-7. It's a 7 fill on the spare, 17 after 1. But it's another one of these just difficult puzzles of spare leaves. 4-5-7. Steve Kelly's seen a lot of the 5-6-10, and this is the mirror image version of it. Kelly plays the wood on the left side, takes the 4-7, leaves the 5. For the 10 box, that's a 10 in the second for 27 after 2 for Steve Kelly. 2 for 2 on the head pin with 2 splits. First ball for both frames has been 7. After 2, Nick Leach is at 15. Steve Kelly's at 27. Kelly on the 1-2 pocket, drops 8. Has the 6 and the 10 on the deck with wood all around it. And the wood is still actually settling, so Steve Kelly is just waiting to see where is going to rest. And it will rest just slightly to the left of the 6, despite the other piece of wood right up against the 6. And Steve Kelly gets stuffed by the caps of the wood. The 10 pin protected by the wood around the 6. Steve Kelly will take a 10 box out of it. In the third, he's at 37. Compare that to Nick Leach's 24 after 3. And Kelly drops 7. 2-4-7. In the 4th frame. It's the 4 horsemen minus the 1 pin on the left side. Kelly's on the 2-4, but just ever so slightly too full on the 2. The 4 slides left and bounces off the sidewall. The 7 pin is not involved in the skirmish. To conclude the 4th frame, Steve Kelly fires on the 7 with the wood in front of it, and it goes. Perfect half so far, 47 after 4. 3 10 boxes in a row, plus a spare and a 7 fill. First ball average for Steve Kelly has been 7.25. Kelly's a little bit full on the head pin, but still gets a head pin and a split. 7, 8, 10. 3 pieces of wood on the deck. Now the object wood I would play on this is the center wood. Probably red line it, or maybe a little above the red line, maybe a little higher than that. We'll see what happens. And Steve Kelly caps it instead. The 8 pin stays. And I remember that shot. I didn't want to cap it. That was just where I ended up throwing the ball. Just missed my target. And that'll be a 9 for Steve Kelly. It breaks the streak of 10s and breaks the perfect streak in the half. So that is going to be a 56 half for Steve Kelly. Nick Leach is currently at a 43 plus a ball half. Steve Kelly perfect on the head pin this half. 5 for 5 on the head pin with 3 splits. Those scores will be going in shortly in just a moment while Nick Leach comes back to the decks to start quarter 3 of game 5. His final 5 boxes of the game. Nick Leach 43 in a bonus after 5. 3 for 5 on the head pin with 1 split. Steve Kelly 56 after 5. Perfect on the head pin, 3 splits. And here comes Nick Leach filling a spare. On the head pin, big boom and a big 8 drop. A quick 8 drop. 51 after 5 for Nick Leach. It's the 4 and the 7 with no wood. And Nick fires, and he's just off to the right of the 4. And that will be another miss on the 4 and the 7 for Nick Leach. That will be an 8 box for 59 in 6. He's gone 4 for 6 on the head pin with 1 split this game so far. After 6 frames, his first ball pins down average has been 6. It dipped a little bit in the first half, but now it's coming back up. Nick Leach on the head pin, nearly a strike. The 4 pin is left on the deck. He's had a couple shots like that today where it's been a quick 9 drop, and then either the 4 or the 6 were the last pin standing. And he's missed the shot before. We'll see what happens here. But not this time. Nick Leach takes the spare in the 7th for 69 and a bonus. And Leach to the left of the head pin, dropping 5. 1, 3, 6, 7, 10. So it's 74 after 5 for Nick Leach, and he'll connect with the 1 and the 3 for an open frame, 7, 6, 10. And Leach will play the wood and oddly only get the 6 out of it, so that'll be an 8 box. That'll be 82 and 8 for Nick Leach. The first time in 4 boxes he's missed the head pin. He's 5 for 8 on the head pin with 2 splits. Nick Leach 1 strike and 13 spares so far. And that's the banana split, 7, 10, 4, 6 with 2 pieces of wood. Favorable wood, I think. If you ask me, I'd play probably within the vicinity of the red line, maybe a little bit higher on the right side piece of wood along the 6 pin. But Nick Leach decides to play the other wood, and it goes all the same. Nick Leach conquers the banana split. That's 92 and a bonus in the 9th for Nick Leach. He's 6 for 9 on the head pin with 2 splits. Filling the spare, and he's right in the pocket. Big strike. Big strike in the 10th for Nick Leach. He needed that one. So that's a big 20 in the 9th. That's 102 for Nick Leach. So he's gone 32 for 50 today, officially, on the head pin, with 15 splits. Averaging 6.7 on the first ball for the entire match. For the 5th game, he's averaged 6.6. And these next 2 balls will be fills on the strike. That's 6 so far. It's the right side check mark, the 5, 6, 3, 10. Nick Leach throws it and takes 2 of the 4, and that will be an 8 fill for a game 5 of 120 for Nick Leach and a 5-game total of 572. He threw a 126, a 101, a 114, a 111, and a 120. 2 strikes, 14 spares, 32 for 50 on the head pin. That's a 64% completion percentage. He averaged 115 today. That's a great opening stanza for Nick Leach in the ACST as a late season substitute. He hasn't averaged 115. He's totaled 115 in fills, averaging 7.2 for Mark. He's averaged 114. So Just to deduct 1 from that statement. Anyways, Steve Kelly looking to close out the 5th and final game and the match. Has to get to 120 from 56. It's a difference of 64 in the game and 51 in the match. Kelly's off to the races on the head pin, drops 6, 4, 6, 2, 10. It's another split. 6 for 6 on the head pin with 4 splits this game for Steve Kelly. First ball average has been 7 exactly on the nose. And Kelly's just off to the left of the object pin. It's a 3, 6, 10 left on the deck. And Kelly sails into the ocean. That's a 7 box in the 6th, 63 and 6 for Steve Kelly. 4 boxes to go before we finish this match today. I'd like to thank a couple of folks before we go, including our ACST committee members, including our league commissioner, Danny Finn, our Class A treasurer, Rich Lamone. Our ACST statistician is Micah Inverado. I'd like to thank the staff at Leda Lanes, Alexis Howard-Booley, and Matt Susi. Steve Abodeely for some of the B-roll and photography you've seen. Check him out at stabodeely.com for his other work, stabodeely.com. And of course, for viewers like you, always appreciate you watching. Tuning into the ACST all the time. And that's 2, and Steve Kelly will take 2 of the 4 horsemen on the spare attempt. It's the 1 and the 10. And it will be a 9 box for Steve Kelly, 72 and 7, down by 2 to Nick Leach's 74 and 7. Again, it's been a very, very close match. The whole way down. Both bowlers throwing a lot of nearly identical numbers in multiple stat categories. Almost to the point where I'm looking at my sheets and I'm like, am I doing the math right? And I'm like, yeah, no, it just really was that close. Steve Kelly misses the head pin, drops 7. It's the 1, 2, 10. And the 1, 2 is even leaning a little bit. And Steve Kelly misses that spare opportunity. Just a bit of a misfire. I was throwing a ball that was tailing to the left, and of course that seems to be one of the very few times it didn't tail to the left. And Kelly plays the 2 and leaves the 1 and the 10. That's an 8 box for 80 and 8. Steve Kelly 80 through 8, Nick Leach 82 through 8. There's a head pin shot for Steve Kelly and a 9 drop, nearly a strike. Almost matching that strike that Nick Leach threw in the 10th. So it's going to be for a spare. Awkward piece of wood in front of the 4. And Kelly just plays it at the right angle, and that's a spare in the 9th. That's 90 and a bonus in 9 for Steve Kelly. 7 for 9 on the head pin with 4 splits. And he's going to basically need to go lights out in order to get to 120 or greater at this point. Definite fight to the finish. Kelly ball tails too much to the left that time. Bit of an overcorrection from the previous opening ball. That's a 6 fill. That's a 1, 6, 8, 10. 96 and 9 compared to Nick Leach's 102 and 9. Kelly plays the object pin, and he knew he needed that one, but no mark. The 8 pin was left on the deck, the sleeper. So it did really effectively come down to more or less a mark in the final box, but that's a 10 box for Steve Kelly. That's a 106 game 5 and a 5 game total of 571 for Steve Kelly. So that is a difference of 1 pin between the two bowlers. Nick Leach just ekes out the total by literally 1 pin and takes the 5th game by 14. And that is one heck of a close match. Nick Leach averaged 6.7 on the first ball, and so did Steve Kelly for the entire match. So again, these numbers are just eerily close. Nick Leach went 32 for 50 on the head pin. That's a 64% completion percentage. He had 15 splits. Steve Kelly went 35 for 50 on the head pin with 70% completion percentage, and he had 26 splits. That's pretty wild. So overall, that's going to be the end of the match. Steve Kelly will take 6 points, a hard-fought 6. Nick Leach, with that 1 pin sway of the total, will take an additional 4. And he takes the 5th game as well, so it'll be 8 points for Nick Leach. He took game 1, game 5 in the total. Steve Kelly took games 2, 3, and 4 overall. So 572 for Nick Leach and 571 for Steve Kelly. And you can see that total pinfall graph. Look at that. It was neck and neck for almost the entire game. Just very minor sways here and there, but it was just a complete, absolute, evenly paced match the entire time. In terms of the marks, Nick Leach has 2 strikes, 14 spares. Steve Kelly, 0 strikes, 14 spares. Perfect box percentage of 58 for Steve Kelly, 46% for Nick Leach. And so Nick Leach's win-loss record in this graphic is actually, I'm not entirely sure this is accurate because he's a substitute bowler. Steve Kelly will move to 103 and 93. Nick Leach will go to 63 and 77 potentially, but I'm not sure how that entirely factors in. So the ACST stats website will definitely have the most up-to-date numbers on that. This is technically Nick Leach's first match, and I believe those stats will be slightly different. So that's the only numbers I'm not entirely certain on as of right now. It's sort of like how Terry Ballard subbed in Class F, and the similar thing with the numbers being just a little bit off. Nick Leach totaling 115 and fills, averaging 7.2 per mark. Steve Kelly 97, averaging 6.9 per mark. Pretty wild in terms of statistics. Both bowlers averaging 114 on the nose today. So that should just about do it for us at Leda Lanes in Nashua, New Hampshire. Hope you've enjoyed this match, and we'll be coming back for more. If you enjoyed what you saw and want to see more, I want you to check out the Atlantic Candlepin Singles Tour page on Facebook and YouTube, the Candlepin Chat group on Facebook, Candlepin Bowling Network on YouTube, Facebook, and Instagram, Candlepin Corner on YouTube, at Candlepin Bowling on TikTok, Outrun the Bear on Facebook and Instagram, Alley Chat on YouTube, Bowling with the Gothiers on YouTube, Wolfman12395 on YouTube for uploads of classic Candlepin matches of yesteryear, the Candlepin Bowling channel on YouTube, Ripping the Rack on YouTube, the Approach podcast, Tony Levesque on YouTube, Charlie Collins on TikTok, and for Nick Leach at Steve Kelly, I've been Steve Kelly on the call. Check out candlepin.org and click Go Bowling if you want to give Candlepin Bowling a try. Check out this map in New England and Eastern Canada. And again, here's all the socials that we were just speaking of. Check out all this stuff. If you want to find more of my content, I am on 3 Ball Spare on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitch.tv specifically. So anyways, that should be just about it for us everywhere here. And again, check out all these awesome Candlepin Bowling social media and media content channels. The number of these channels just keeps going up, and up. So all right, so we'll see you folks at the next Atlantic Candlepin Singles Tour. It was a pleasure broadcasting this to you. I've been Steve Kelly, and for Nick Leach and Steve Kelly, have a great one, everybody.